Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight we're going to start out not with a person, but with a thing, the pioneer cabin tree. And I think it's the oldest thing we've ever had on this program. The pioneer cabin tree died recently at the age of, well, somewhere around 2000. We don't really know. It was a giant sequoia tree in Calaveras Big Tree State Park in Arnold, California, and it was a famous tourist attraction that had a tunnel carved through it in the 1880s to attract tourists. The tunnel was enlarged in the 1920s to let cars go through it, cars the size of Model Ts. And since then, people have been coming from all over the world to see the giant redwood tree. But a recent rainstorm and flood took out its root system, and the tree collapsed. I'm sure the tunnel didn't help the tree at all, by the way. Here is Sacramento television on the pioneer cabin tree.
Broken, shattered, resting in pieces. The pioneer cabin tree in Calaveras Big Tree State Park has been a huge draw for tourists for the last 200 plus years.
I mean, generations of families have come here. People have gotten married here. I mean, people around the world. I mean, this is a worldwide tree. People know this tree.
State rangers say the wind, rain, and recent snowfall may have been too much for this historic tree to handle, which came crashing down around 2 p.m. on Sunday.
It's kind of sad because my brother's in first grade and he can't see that this year because it fell down.
We have fond memories of going through.
Families were saddened to hear about the tree, but were happy to share with us their memories of when they did get to visit.
I like that we got to go through a big tree because I don't really know what and the inside of a big tree looks like.
Rangers say the pioneer big tree was hollowed out in the 1880s as a way to draw in more visitors.
They decided to cut a hole in the tree, and they made it look like a cabin, a square. That's where it gets the name, Pioneer Cabin Tree.
It became one of the highlights of the park. Although we can only estimate how old the tree is, we may never know for sure because they are not planning to cut up the tree.
In order to do that, we're going to have to cut the tree up and count the rings. We're not going to do that.
And although it no longer stands tall, rangers say the pioneer cabin tree will remain a part of the trail. The fact that it fell, now a part of its story.
This tree is staying here. It's going to stay in the forest. It's going to be a huge reminder to everyone to come out to your parks. Go out to nature. Go see what you need to see.
Well, we're going to move on now to someone who wasn't quite as old, Claire Hollingworth, who died recently at the age of 105. Claire Hollingworth was the English journalist, war correspondent, and writer, and I think it's not a stretch to say that she broke the biggest scoop of the 20th century, the German invasion of Poland that started World War II. She worked primarily for the Daily Telegraph. Here's Matthew Bannister of the BBC4 Last Word on Claire Hollingworth.
Claire Hollingworth lived to be 105 years old, which is perhaps something of a surprise, since she spent her long career as a journalist on the front lines of wars all over the world. She reported from Algeria, the Middle East, and Vietnam, but first made her name in 1939 with a scoop about German tanks massing on the Polish border just before the outbreak of the Second World War. She explained how she got the story.
I was staying with the British Consul General. So I said to him, "May I borrow your car?" And he said, "Where do you want to go, old girl?" And so I said, "I want to go into Germany."
I learn on reliable authority that Germany has now concentrated 10 mobile divisions, including nearly 1,000 tanks on the Polish frontier.
The border guard were a bit surprised when they saw the Union Jack flying, but they let me in. And I bought aspirin and white wine and things you couldn't get then inside Poland.
This force is apparently intended for a sudden stroke northeasternwards against Polish Upper Silesia and the important industrial area of which Katowice is the centre.
I was driving back along a valley and there was Hessian screen up so you couldn't look down into the valley. And suddenly there was a great gust of wind which blew the Hessian, the sacking, from its moorings. And I looked down into the valley and saw scores, if not hundreds, of tanks.
This is only one of many signs that the German military machine is now ready for instant action.
So when I got back, I said, "Thank you for lending me your car." He said, "Where did you go, old girl?" So I said, "I went into Germany." He said, "Stop being funny." So I said, "Well, look in the boot and you'll see the things I bought there. And what's more, I've got a very good story. The tanks are already lined up for invasion of Poland." I'm not frightened of shot and shell, quite frankly. It just happens that I'm not. I enjoy covering wars, I regret to say. I mean, I know it's not what people expect. They say how awful it must be, but I enjoy the excitement.
We're going to move on now to our feature tonight, William Peter Blatty, who died recently at the age of 89. Brilliant man. He was an author. He wrote many great books, but he wrote one book that towers above all the rest. No less than Stephen King has called it the greatest horror novel of the 20th century. And I'm going to let Euronews tell you what it was.
The novelist and filmmaker who wrote The Exorcist, William Peter Blatty, has died at the age of 89. His novel, The Exorcist, was followed in 1973 by the hugely successful horror movie, which is considered a classic. Blatty wrote the screenplay for the story of a girl possessed by a satanic force.
The novel sold 10 million, and the movie was one of the most popular movies in the world when it came out in 1973. As the report said, he also wrote the screenplay. The movie was nominated for an Academy Award, the first horror movie to be nominated. It didn't win, but he did win the Academy Award for the best screenplay against some very stiff competition. And here are Angie Dickinson and Jason Miller, who played Father Karras in the movie, to present him the award.
For the best screenplay, based on material from another medium, the nominees are William Peter Blatty for The Exorcist,
Robert Towne for The Last Detail,
James Bridges for The Paper Chase,
Alvin Sargent for Paper Moon,
Waldo Salt and Norman Wexler for Serpico, and may we have the envelope, please, for you, Jason. The winner is William Peter Blatty for The Exorcist.
I would like to thank Mr. William Bloom, who taught me the rudiments and the craft of screenwriting, and Billy Friedkin, and my late parents, who came to this country on a cattle boat, and whose love and whose courage have brought me to this moment and to this place. You've honored them, and I thank you very, very much.
Well, the backstory to William Peter Blatty is actually quite interesting. He was a nice Lebanese boy who was born in Brooklyn. He went to Brooklyn Prep, the same school that Joe Paterno went to. In fact, Joe Paterno was the quarterback on the football team. He was a year ahead of William Peter Blatty. William Peter Blatty became the valedictorian, and then he went on to Georgetown. And of course, Georgetown is the backdrop for The Exorcist. But the thing that's most interesting about William Peter Blatty is he wrote a lot of things. He moved out to Los Angeles, and he was writing primarily humor, and his first book didn't do that well, but one thing saved him to become a writer so that he never had to take another job, and the person responsible for that was none other than Groucho. In 1961, William Peter Blatty went on You Bet Your Life as an Arab prince trying to fool Groucho as a sort of a joke, and here's what happened.
You understand some English. How did you know when I told you to take off your glasses?
Well, I understand a little bit when you speak slowly.
Oh.
I can understand.
Slowly?
Slowly.
Well, let's try some more English. Tell me something about your family, Your Highness. I didn't know they had princes in Minnesota. Do you have any brothers?
Brother, yes, I have 30, 40. I am not sure. Very many.
You have 30, 40 brothers?
Yes, I think.
Your father has 34 sons?
Yes.
Did he have more than one wife?
Yes, in my country you can have 4 wives.
Four wives. That
yes.
makes it very nice. That gives you one for each season.
Yes, very nice. You bet your life, Groucho.
You know what I think? I think you just made this whole thing up. I don't think you're no more Arabian than I am. What do you think about that?
I'm a prince at heart, Groucho, and actually my mother is an Arab.
You didn't. It was pretty obvious to me that you weren't an Arabian prince, because I know I used to have an Arabian horse, and I know what they look like. Well, who are you?
Well, actually, I'm Bill Blatty.
Are you a wolf in sheep's clothing?
In sheep's clothing.
No, that's a very snappy outfit.
Thank you. I'm Bill Blatty, and I was born in Brooklyn, just a few blocks from American Legion Post number 804.
Well, why did you want to play practical jokes on the old quizmaster?
You're not alone. I did this to a lot of Hollywood celebrities some time ago. And I'm an old friend of George Fenneman, and he told me that you are the world's greatest authority on spotting phonies. Yeah. And he sort of egged me on to put you to the test tonight.
Actually, I have no knack for spotting phonies. Fenneman was wrong, because I've had Fenneman in my employ for 14 years. I haven't spotted him yet. Is there good money in being a bogus prince?
Well, outside of the restaurant business, no. And actually, I'm a writer.
A writer? What have you written? Just bad checks?
No, I've got a book out now which tells all about these princely impersonations. It's called Which Way to Mecca, Jack. That's not a lie. I did that.
And I want to
Maybe I should lie about it.
No, you shouldn't. I read that book, and it's a very good book. Well, God bless you for saying that, Groucho. You know, I lie all the time. Well, if your book is half as shifty as you are, I'm sure it's going to be distributed by the Crook of the Month Club. Well, you're a charming and attractive couple, and it's been refreshing talking to you, and to you too. And Bill,
Thank you, Groucho.
if you can just keep out of jail, I'll be disappointed in the L.A. police. Lots of luck with your book, and it's going to be a big seller because
Thanks very much.
it's something that rarely happens nowadays. It's an extremely funny book. And there are very few funny books written anymore. Now, let's see if you can win some money. And she's pretty cute, don't you think?
I hope she's pretty smart.
Well, with his Jesuit education, he turned out to be pretty smart, and they made it to the final question.
What's the answer?
All we can think of are the pyramids.
The pyramids is right. That's right. You just won a total of $10,000. Now, what are you going to do with all that money? What are you going to do with your $5?
It's going to finance me to finish the next book.
Oh, that's wonderful. So congratulations, and thanks for being with us.
Well, with that money, William Peter Blatty never had to take another job outside writing again, and a decade later he finished The Exorcist. So in some way, we have Groucho to thank for the legendary book, The Exorcist. Well, we're going to close tonight with Buddy Greco, who died recently at the age of 90. He's pretty much forgotten today, but he was well known for a time as being in the outer circle of the Rat Pack, a pretty good singer, but people don't realize before that he was a great jazz pianist, good enough that he was picked up by Benny Goodman when he was a young man. And here he talks about that with Billy Taylor, whose podcast we've done.
Oh, I just got to tell you one little story. When I was with Benny Goodman, we were working in London, Ontario, around 1950, and I used to room with Wardell Gray, who, of course, we knew very well. One night after we got through the concert in Canada, for some reason, they always had two pianos like this. I don't know why, but they always had two pianos. And we got through the concert, and then I started to play Sonny Igo and Clyde and Lombardi started to jam a little bit. Very heavy-set man said, "Do you mind if I sit in a little bit?" I said, "No, go right ahead." That's like a movie. All the guys were packing, and the bus was outside, and Benny Goodman was back there someplace, and he started to play Fine and Dandy. And he played one chorus, and he played two choruses, and three choruses, and all of a sudden people started to come around. By the time he played about the 25th chorus, the whole band was there, and I have never heard anything like that in my life. That was my introduction to Oscar Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just never heard anything like this in his life, you know. But the fact that I'm glad he stopped singing because I got enough trouble. I mean,
He sounded just like that.
he sounded exactly like he used to play like that.
Here Billy Taylor and Buddy Greco played together.
Listen, it's really great to be able to sit and play the piano by myself, but it's even greater to have a friend who I admire and who I really enjoy playing with. Playing with Buddy Greco has been something that I've enjoyed just so much. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed it, but it's been so long.
The feeling is mutual. I've waited a long time to do this. I will never forget this. It's been one of the highlights of my life. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Philly.
A little later on, Jimmy Webb dedicated MacArthur Park to Buddy Greco because he did such a wonderful job with it on the piano. He used to play it in all of his shows. I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps. As I said, Buddy Greco was in the outer sphere of the Rat Pack. So let's close with him, Frank, and Sam.
Actually came over to tell you one thing. You were about to sing Lady is a Tramp, right? Right. Mr. Sinatra, you remember him? Oh, yes. Yes, he told me to tell you that you can't sing that song anymore. It's his.
If I don't say anything, you don't say anything.
You mean we'll keep it like on the quiet?
Quiet, right. So,
all right, I won't tell nobody.
She goes to the ball games and thinks the Mets are fine. She thinks that Sandy Koufax is still a great big champ. Hates California. It's cold and it's damp. That's why the lady. That's why the lady. That's why the lady is a tramp. Mr. Mr. Buddy Greco, thank you for being a wonderful audience, ladies and gentlemen.